Wait! I never subscribed.
And you'll never have to. Seriously, if you could subscribe, like, comment, it help me out a lot. So actually, please do that. Don't worry about it. I won't force you to watch this video. That doesn't mean I won't post it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to From Wayne to Wonder, our Batman review. Guys, Christopher Nolan knows how to make a fucking movie, huh? My name is Kyle, guys, your host. Not normally in this Batman outfit, but for this series, guys, I am, because I'm totally not Bruce Wayne, but that's okay. Guys, we got through the older Batmans. I really enjoyed those for what they were. They all had kind of their own little things, like strengths and weaknesses, and it was interesting to go back and look. And I feel like now that I've had that sort of experience and I've seen all the other Batmans now, and I go into this trilogy with like a new sense of knowledge where it's like, oh, okay. And Batman Begins is by far the one I've seen the least. I've only seen this movie maybe 2 or 3 times all the way through. Maybe. I did remember a lot more than I thought. But anyway, guys, if you haven't seen the series before, we go through my quick thoughts on the movie. We do a Hero We Deserve, which is my favorite character, the One Who Watched the World Burn, which is my least favorite character. We do a score out of 10, and then the rankings, of course. So, guys, welcome to Batman Begins, and we are going right into the thoughts, guys. Man, there is a lot I like about this movie. No, excuse me. There's a lot I love about this movie. This is a fantastic film. Now, does this film have some slow moments at times? Yeah. Is the Ra's al Ghul stuff at the beginning when he's training a little slow? Yeah, I guess. Do they reference bats way too much? Yeah, we get a lot of flashbacks. But you know what, guys? Outside of that, this movie is fantastic. The fact that Ra's al Ghul, who is Liam Neeson, of course. Let's just talk for a minute about how Liam Neeson played a character named Qui-Gon Jinn and now Ra's al Ghul. And it's like, hey, Liam Neeson, get less syllables. But he comes in, guys, and we think that this other guy is Ra's al Ghul, and Liam Neeson's character is just like kind of just like a henchman or right-hand man. And Bruce goes to train with him, guys. I thought that stuff was really cool. How he's like, oh, you got to be aware of your surroundings. And he's like, Bruce is like getting outgunned by him or like outwitted by him, and all these ninjas go around, and he's got like almost like prototypical Batman armor where he's got like I think it's the League of Shadows. He's got the armor, and it's cool because it's almost like a prototype Batman outfit. And so he's going through and he gets cut. Thinking on his feet, Bruce like goes in and cuts a few of the guys, and Liam Neeson thinks he's got him, where he's like, you cannot leave anything undone. And he's like, comes up behind me, he's like, I know. And he's like, oh shit. So it's like students are past the master. They're telling Bruce to kill this guy, and he's like, I'm not an executioner. And they're like, Bruce, your emotions are making you weak. And it's like, this is the first time you're like, I don't know, Qui-Gon. Like, I don't know. Not Qui-Gon, sorry. Wrong series. I don't know, Ra's al Ghul. It seems like you got some bad morals here. And so Bruce is like, no, I'm not going to do it. So he expertly flips the little flame or torch up, and then like it sets the whole place on fire. And then obviously we get that cool scene where he's sliding down the ice and he saves Ra's al Ghul's life. He doesn't know he's Ra's al Ghul at the time. I'm not going to go point for point on the plot here, though, guys, but I thought that was cool. Man, all the Batcave stuff was so cool, where he goes down there and he takes the sweet-ass elevator down, and he's like, this is the lowest foundation of the Southwest Corridor, and he like goes down the well where he originally fell down as a kid, when he's playing with Rachel, and we're like, oh, this is cool, and Rachel talks to him about how like he used to be this little like innocent childhood boy, and she's like, you've changed or whatever. Guys, Alfred and Bruce's dynamic right away. I've talked about in the past movies that's lacking for me, especially, and they did have different Bruce Waynes for 3 of those Batman movies, so I get it. But the camaraderie here, guys, and like Alfred, played by Michael Caine, just amazing, dude. It's just right off the bat, it's so good. It sucks that we have to kind of like slow reboot Batman again, and we have to see Bruce's parents dying, and Joe Chill kills them, and there's the scene, and he goes to the police station. But then we get Commissioner Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, and Gary Oldman, oh my God, so good in this role. He's amazing throughout the whole series, really, and especially in this movie too. It's just awesome. And he's like the one cop that Batman trusts. That stuff is all really, really neat, guys. I thought that was great. Rachel, played by Katie Holmes, is excellent, and it's too bad she didn't come back for the sequel for Dark Knight. That would have been really great. I thought Katie was excellent in this movie. There's just a lot of stuff to love in this movie. There's a whole lot of cool tech stuff where Batman's getting his whole getup together, and they order the mask. He's working with Alfred, and again, this Alfred is working with Bruce, and he's like, you know what? He went away training for 7 years at Ra's al Ghul, and he comes back and he's like, oh, I thought you were dead. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the guy who's leading Wayne Enterprises pronounced him dead. And he's like, your shares are worth a lot of money. He's taking over the company. And then Bruce is like, do you know how much I've sacrificed? Just kidding. That's a different series. They're coming back on the plane, and Bruce is like, oh, I need a symbol. He's like, something that strikes fear into my enemies. Alfred is like, oh, but you should make sure that you have a mask, right? Or something to protect your loved ones. And he's like, oh, you think about Rachel? He's like, dude, I'm thinking about myself. Alfred's like, yo, I don't want to die. Rachel's got time to go. He's like, yo, I'm up there a little bit. He's like, I'm Michael Caine, and I want to live my life. And we get Morgan Freeman, guys, who's amazing as Lucius Fox. And it's just a star-studded cast. And obviously in The Dark Knight that continues, but it's just like you're hit with a star power right away. And it's just really, really cool. He goes and sees the Kevlar, and it's all based on reality, where he's like, oh yeah, these were the suits. But, we didn't want to continue because they didn't want to go with the soldier look or whatever. And he talks about how it's Kevlar, and he shows them all the neat things. And we're in the back cave. He's holding the big nails out, and how you pull electricity. And that's what makes this cape really, really cool. Again, I don't want to touch on every single thing, guys, but there's just so much to love in this movie. The Scarecrow stuff was amazing. I thought the guy who played Henry Crane was excellent. He has the perfect deranged face where he was just really, really creepy. And I love how we had Carmine Falcone as the big bad in the beginning, but then he was just kind of a puppet because Henry Crane was controlling him. And then we find out that Henry Crane was a puppet. Ra's al Ghul, they weaponize Henry Crane or Scarecrow's fear toxin, which is awesome, dude. Every time he used it, including when Batman uses it on Henry Crane after he gets the antidote, and then Henry's seeing Batman's face, and it's almost melted into his face. So awesome. Everything was very horror-esque. I thought it was excellent. I just thought the acting was A+, dude. I just thought it was excellent. I couldn't believe the quality. And even though this movie, I think, starts kind of slow, it's just so good. And guys, the last 45 minutes of the movie is action-packed. Ra's al Ghul's plan to put hallucinogenic poison into the water supply, and the fact that they were secretly doing this for weeks, and then the cops get there and they're like, dude, it's everywhere. It's in all of the water. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry. They can't get it unless they have a micro emitter. And they're like, oh, you mean the one that Wayne Enterprise created and we just stole? If there was a weak point in the movie, I would say that's probably a weak point for me, but not the plan itself, because that's awesome that they want to. Ra's al Ghul is I want to poison all of Gotham, and they're all going to go crazy from panic. And we see the effects of that, how everyone's running around, and Batman's going through the sky, and they see him as demon eyes. And biological weapons are so scary because they're so real, you can imagine that happening. Or biochemical weapons, sorry, is what I should say. When they steal the emitter, they were like, oh yeah, we had our super powerful emitter on just a cargo ship, and they just went in there and took it and activated it. And I was like, there was no security there, nothing was going on. It's almost like a weapon of mass destruction. And it's you just have it on a ship and it's easily stolen. That was kind of weird. But I mean, the scene where we get Batman by the cargo ships where he's going after Falcone, where he's like, where is he? And then Batman's hanging out and he goes, here. And I was like, oh my God, dude, so good. And obviously he starts off with a ski mask, but then he gets up, and I just love how you see him build up, and you get all the cool utility bells. And we've seen that in older Batmans, but man, it's just so cool how he's building his equipment. And we get the amazing shot, guys, where he's building the suit, or he's got the Kevlar suit and he's spray painting it black. And it's the music is so good. The Dark Knight music is not quite complete in this film, and I think they intentionally did that, where you get most of it right, and you still get the music building up, where it's dur, dur, and there's a terrible impression, but you guys know what I'm talking about, where it's so good, dude. Just so awesome. The tumbler, there's so many iconic lines in this movie, guys. He's like, oh, what's that? The tumbler? He's like, oh, you wouldn't be interested in that. And he goes around, and Lucius is telling him how it was designed to, I think he said, put the bridge together or something, but then the cables never got worked out. And I just love how everything is based in reality, where he's these were all used for combat purposes, or these were going to be used for soldiers. And he's we just didn't want to go in that direction. And so it's all this archive stuff. And he's telling, there's a great back and forth with Bruce and Lucius, where he's oh, I'm just going to go spelunking. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, cave diving. He's like, yeah. He's like, this time it's base jumping. It's just all really, really good stuff. But the Tumblr scene, obviously, guys, I'm kind of jumping around here. Sorry, but also this is a Project Pod review. So hello. Any questions? And he goes, does it come in black? I was like, oh my God, so good. There's the swear to me line, obviously. All right, we're kind of backing up now, but Bruce wants to like take a gun and kill Joe Chill, but then someone else shoots him. It was Falcone's men. And so like Rachel brings him down and she's like, look at what he's doing to the city. It's like drugs and destruction. And she's like, everyone knows Falcone is right here and you can walk right in and sit down with him, which Bruce does. But he's like, he's paid all the right people. So he's like, they're like, you can't do anything. And so Falcone keeps getting away with all this stuff. And then Batman comes along, and I feel like I've already done way too much recap of this plot, guys, but there's just so many awesome moments, and Batman just kicks ass, and I love the Scarecrow stuff, and all the Tumblr, the Tumblr is so cool, dude, when he goes through, and he's like, oh, I'm taking a shortcut, and he like goes to the roof, and then like, every time he goes in like weapon mode where he goes down into the Batmobile, it's incredible, dude. I love when Rachel gets poisoned, and he's like, they're going against the clock and they're like, we're losing her. And Batman calls for backup in like the room because the SWAT are coming in. And I guess they're going to still try to arrest Batman because Gordon like hasn't convinced them that he's good or whatever. And so he has like a bat signal on the bottom of his boot. Gordon's like, what is that? And he's like, back up. And then all of these bats come down and he descends down the thing that kind of like gets them covered to get away. And Commissioner Gordon's like, oh, I can't get away. I didn't bring my car or whatever. And he's like, it's okay. I brought mine. And then he comes out with a tumbler and he's like, I got to get me one of those. And there's just so many awesome moments, guys. And it's like, we get Commissioner Gordon driving the tumbler at the end. And it's like so great because he's like, oh, and it's like, here's the thruster now. And he's like so scared. He gets it done. He shoots out the bridge. And obviously the scene at the end, guys, where Ra's al Ghul is in the train and then Batman's there. One other thing, guys, I didn't mention too, is that really, really cool. There's so many little things I picked up on this time where Bruce is at the party and Alfred has this emphasis all movie, which is great, where he's like, he's got these really bad like bruises. And he's like, well, you have to have like some kind of like lifestyle because he's like, if you have really bad bruises and he's like, you're not really doing anything for work, people are going to start asking questions like, what is Bruce Wayne doing with this time? And he's like, oh, I don't care about that. And he's like, mossed away. And he's like, maybe if you pretended to have fun, you'd start actually having some fun. Going back to the train scene where Ra's is in there and Batman finally gets the one up on him. Ra's says like, you finally learned what must be done. And he's like, I don't have to kill you. And then he throws like something out the window and then he throws a bomb to separate the trains. I don't have to save you either. And then he fucking ducks out, dude, and he flies out of the back. Oh my God, so cool. Yeah, guys, this movie is just freaking awesome. Okay, guys, so the hero we deserve, which is my favorite character, it's Bruce Wayne Batman. Dude, it is. I've talked about how in some of the old Batman movies that these movies are about Batman, and I haven't quite vibed with either the Bruce Wayne or the Batman, like whoever was playing them. I talked about how I didn't love Keaton's performance. I thought Clooney's performance was awful, but I liked Kilmer. But it was never like great Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think Christian Bale absolutely crushes it in this role where he plays, you know, that kind of, he's kind of almost like he's like an adventurous kid and when he's little, and they did a really good job of the young actor playing young Bruce. Looks actually a lot like Christian Bale, where he's like kind of socially awkward, but he, you know, he's not really into his own yet. And he kind of wants to stay away from people. And, you know, he tells Alfred throughout the movie, like, I don't care about my name. And Alfred is like, well, it's not about you, dude. It's about you. Like, you're the family name in whole. He's like, it's like, I'm part of that too. And he's telling him like, you got to stop being so selfish. And it's just really great because Christian he's ripped for this movie, obviously. And there's a great line where Alfred says like, what's the point of all those push-ups if you can't lift a log? And it's like, oh yeah, it's just really cool. But yeah, his relationship with Alfred, I think, plays into this, but I just thought he's awesome, dude. He's super good with all the action scenes. Obviously, Christian Bale is a great actor. I thought he played a great Bruce where he was like, you know, they talk about how he feels like he's guilty for his parents' death because he got scared with the bats on stage. And so he made them leave early, which like led them into Joe Chill's alley. And so he feels guilty that he killed his parents. And they're like, no. It's not your guilt or whatever. And Ra's asked him at the beginning, like, you know, are you still guilty about your parents' death? And he says like, no, my anger outweighs my rage. And he's so hell-bent on revenge at the beginning until kind of Joe Chill's death, where Rachel shows him like, hey man, she slaps him and she's like, you're being kind of a dick. Like, it's bigger than you, dude. Like it's more about the city, not just you. And he's kind of trying to tell him like there's a bunch of Joe-Chels out there and they're all going to do the same thing to other families. It's like, it's not just your family. It's not just you. To see Bruce's character arc, to see him like obviously gain the skills necessary, but then like for him to go out there and like start working with Commissioner Gordon. And Commissioner Gordon has that great scene where he goes and shows up and he asks Commissioner Gordon, like, what he thinks. And he's like, oh, I think you're trying to help. And then he like goes away and he's like, but I've been wrong before. And there's just so many good moments. And I know that's not really about Christian Bale specifically, but his presence as Batman is just so good. He has that line with Rachel where she says, it's not really about what's underneath the mask. It's about what's the actions you take or whatever. I'm butchering that line, but you guys know what I'm talking about because he gives Rachel that line at the end where he's like about to leap off the building and she's like, wait, you could die. Can you at least tell me your name? And then he gives that line back and she's like, oh my God, it's Bruce. And just really, really awesome. But I thought Christian Bale crushed it emotionally, physically. I thought he was just so, so cool. And I thought the perfect Bruce Wayne Batman. And there's a reason this trilogy is so highly regarded. Okay, guys, who watched the world burn? It's going to be that detective Flass or whatever his name is. I'll put his name in here, guys. The guy played by the dude from Sons of Anarchy. And he's also in one of the Fast and Furious movies. Oh, in Too Fast, Too Furious. He is just the typical, like, to me, bad cop, corrupt cop, like very one-dimensional. I don't think it was necessarily the actor's fault. I just thought this is like the one poor instance of writing, I think, in this movie, where I was just like, oh, he's just a corrupt cop. And he's like, he's kind of siding along with Falcone and stuff, or he's like trying to like move things around to make sure that they work out or like go against the police department. And Jim Gordon is like the classic hero cop, like do the right thing. And he's just like the opposite. And Jim sees it, but he's like trying to almost like snuff out Jim. And I just didn't like his performance really. I thought he was just a little see-through, and I could just kind of tell he was just like a bad cop to be a bad cop. And I wish they did a little bit more with that character, making it a little more believable or his reasons behind that. But he's just kind of a greedy cop who's like siding with the most powerful, which was Falcone most of the time. And he doesn't really have a character arc. And I just thought I wasn't really interested in that character. I thought he was the weakest link. Okay, guys, we get to a score here. Guys, this is a 9.5. This is a damn good movie. Man, the whole ending with the music going and the action going, the Tumblr going. And Alfred's like, he's like, I thought you weren't about the high lifestyle. And he's like, what do you call that? And Bruce is like, great television. And I was like, oh, all that stuff is so cool. I mean, they teased the Joker at the end, guys. So cool. Where he's like, oh, this guy is a little crazy like you. He's like double homicide. He's like, he leaves a calling card and he flips it over for the Joker. We get the amazing line at the end, guys. Commissioner Gordon's like, wait, I never said thank you. And then he said, and you'll never have to. And he flies away, dude, and the music plays and you're like, oh my God, dude, so cool. And Commissioner Gordon says too, like, half the guys that escaped from Arkham Asylum, they're like the rapists, the murderers, like the worst of the worst, maximum security. He's like, we're still tracking down half the guys. And so obviously some of those guys go with Joker next movie. Yeah, I just thought it was really, really great. I thought the story was awesome. The characters were awesome. I love seeing Batman become Batman, right? The first hour of this movie is just like Bruce slowly becoming Batman. When he gets the Kevlar suit and he goes down to the waterfall and he puts his hand in the water and then he's like, Alfred, come over here. And he's like, oh, sir, I can see it fine from right here. And sorry, my accent impression is wavering as this review goes on. And I was just so invested, and I just thought the story was cool. How we go from Falcone, and he's kind of just like not the real big bad, but then you get Scarecrow, and you're like, oh, Scarecrow must be the main villain, and it's like kind of, and I guess he kind of is, but it's also like he's working for Ra's al Ghul. The Ra's al Ghul twist I think was surprising to me because I didn't remember that. I knew he came back, but I feel like I wasn't paying attention to all the little details before, so I thought Ra's al Ghul was just like a good guy and then something happened, but it's like, no, he's a bad dude. And Bruce was tricked by him. And it's like, he gets his obviously revenge at the end, or not his revenge because he's not focused on revenge, but he gets kind of his justice. And I just think it's really, really just a phenomenal film. And it just gets you can see the foundation is there. No pun intended. I love early Batman. I love Batman becoming his own. I love him building the gadgets. I love him spray painting the suit. And then to get half of the movie building up to that, and then to see him in action where he's kicking ass, or he's going in a tumbler, and it's kind of the Batman we know through the next two movies, obviously. And it's just oh man, it's such a great movie. And not only is it a great setup for Dark Knight, but it's just a really good standalone film. And I just had such a great time watching it. And it's just fantastic. Looking at the rankings here, guys. Number 1, we have Batman Begins. Number 2, we have Batman Returns. Number 3, Batman Forever. Number 4, 1989 Batman. Number 5, Batman and Robin. And number 6, the 1966 Batman with Adam West. And so those are how the rankings shape up so far. Okay, guys, that's another episode of From Wayne to Wonder. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Thanks for checking out the review. Man, dude, this has just been, again, just a blast. And I've enjoyed all of these movies, but getting to this Dark Knight trilogy, guys, and especially because I haven't seen Batman Begins a bunch, I was just so excited to put this on. It just looked beautiful. I'm watching on a 4K projector, and it was just like an experience. And I cannot wait for next week to see Dark Knight, because I already know it's most likely the new number 1, guys, because that's, I think, like a perfect film. But I'm excited to go back and watch it with a critical eye, and obviously Dark Knight Rises 2, and then the new one. So we're almost done here, guys, but appreciate you stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe if you did like the content, and until next time, guys. You can borrow the rolls. Just make sure it comes back with a full tank.